Also this Thursday, Lebanon's government has endorsed a long-awaited economic plan with the International Monetary Fund in a bid to address an escalating financial crisis. Iran-backed group Hezbollah had previously opposed an IMF program, but it's now given its stamp of approval to the government to request assistance. This as protesters even have been taking to the streets once again amid a currency collapse and a surge in prices. Now, some of them have been targeting banks and setting them ablaze, as you can see in these images here. Over in Lebanon, the COVID-19 outbreak has exacerbated the economic woes that were already gripping the country. And for more on this story, I'm joined by our Foreign Affairs editor, Philip Turle, who joins us from his apartment here in Paris. Philip, it's great to have you with us. Can you give us some sort of context on Lebanon's economic situation?
Well, if you remember back in the fall of last year, Sanam, there were widespread protests around Lebanon due to the dire economic situation in the country. People, 50% of the population living almost below the poverty level, a spiralling debt which the government is unable to pay back. Just one figure for you, over half of the revenue coming into Lebanon is used just to pay off the interest for that debt and not even pay off the debt. So the government has no money. And that means that there are very few basic supplies available in the country. There are frequent power cuts. There is a problem as far as running water is concerned. Unemployment has gone spiraling upwards. All of this calmed down after the resignation of Saad Hariri back in October, and then the nomination of a new Prime Minister, Hassan Diab, at the end of last year. He took office in January, and then the outbreak of the coronavirus, which ended the protest for a while. But since the government decided to end the lockdown beginning last Monday, those protests have come back again because the economic situation in the country has got even worse during that lockdown. And now, as you said, the protesters are attacking banks, basically because they're blaming the central bank for the falling value of the Lebanese currency, the pound. They're also saying that they can't withdraw their own funds and that they really cannot survive without any more money. So the situation is really spiraling out of control at the moment in Lebanon.
Indeed, the situation is very much spiraling out of control. Can you tell us what the international community has done in reaction to this? Is it IMF to the rescue?
Well, the government has come up with a plan to try to pull the country back from the brink. As you were mentioning in your introduction, they want to do two things. The first one is to fight against corruption. That's one of the key demands of the protesters. They see that the confessional system, which is the way the government in Lebanon is made up with all the different factions and sects and religious groups who run the country together, that needs to be brought to an end. There needs to be a technocratic government. One of the plans is to root out corruption, which is something that has been affecting the country for decades. And the second one is to overhaul the banking system to make it more easy to take one's money out and to be able to have faith in the banking system in Lebanon. Now, that has been put forward to the International Monetary Fund, which has said it is willing to come up with money. But the problem is that lender groups are not willing to invest in Lebanon until they see some kind of stability in the way Lebanon is run and in the government in Lebanon. Now, what we are seeing at the moment is a certain shift in the situation because there are different groups within the government in Lebanon and also within Parliament which don't agree with the plan that the Prime Minister has come forward with, and they are fighting to take control. So we now have a situation where groups who are fighting in the streets may not only be out there fighting against corruption and against or in favor of overhauling the banking system, but they may also be out there trying to support their own ethnic groups. And that is why the situation is becoming incredibly complicated. And while this is not sorted out, it is pretty unsure that those lender groups are going to want to invest any money in Lebanon.
Philip Turle, I'd like to thank you for your analysis with us at this hour. Now, Wednesday, Joe Biden